divorced wife. Something or other, or I'd heard it from Nunberg. Now, Nunberg is the father of that psychoanalyst, right? So you see where he got it from. Who had heard it from a resident. The context of the rumor was that a patient was referred to the Oregon Institute and had put into a panic by masturbation, undressing, and a box. I told this group that the member of the Oregon Institute, which I mentioned above, is a friend of mine who asked me, as a resident of Hillside, if I had heard anything of this situation. In the subsequent conversation, I told this person all of the circumstances of the situation, including the names of the doctors present, the name of the patient, and the fact that I had already spoke to the patient on the telephone and learned that she had not gone to the Oregon Institute at all. Dr. Miller asked me why I divulged this information. I told him that I had no reason to conceal it, since in this conversation he had merely relied on to us what he had heard from Dr. Obendorf. He asked me why I had communicated with the patient. I told him that I had not believed the statement which he alleged that Dr. Obendorf had made, and I wished to investigate. After this discussion, I was called back into the office and told by Dr. Miller that he had called Obendorf, and Obendorf had denied all, leaving Dr. Miller holding the bag. In general, Dr. Miller was very much impressed with the law firm. That's Arthur Garfield Hayes. He admitted his guilt in the situation, indicating that he was perpetuating rumors which he had heard. He asked me some questions such as are the patients masturbated and so forth. I answered the question in a superficial way, whereupon he remarked that he was completely misinformed and had made a very bad mistake in handling these rumors. Oddly enough, he ended saying if I had any brains, I would go there and take a course to find out what it's all about before shooting off my mouth. He was genuinely worried, guilty, and penitent. Now that's it. Sure, if he had any brains, if all of these people had any brains, they would at least go take a course or read the books or something. This rumor is still circulating after, 34 years. You see it published and everything else. So, you want to ask, let's ask some questions. I'll just give it just one more. Nick Wall. She had worked and trained with Dr. Reich in Norway and had become quite a well-known psychoanalyst and orgotherapist, but she in Norway, wanted to learn more about psychoanalysis. I, Nick Wall, MD, hereby report the following facts. Mita Fabian, MD, psychoanalyst at the Menninger Clinic, Topeka, Kansas, said in my presence and that of Dr. Bachman, since it is long recognized that Wilhelm Reich is crazy. She was also very disturbed about the fact that Dr. Meyer Silvert, who was also a resident at the Menninger Clinic, very brilliant psychoanalyst, psychiatrist, intended to study with Wilhelm Reich and told Mrs. Ruth Cohn that something should be done to prevent Silvert from going to Reich because Reich is crazy. Dr. Carl Menninger, in a discussion with me, warned me against any connecting my work with Reich's name and asked me whether the Oregon business of Reich wasn't crazy. I believe that the rumors were originated years ago by the late Otto Fenico. That's where it really all started.
Who was that?
Dr. Fenico was top one. He was one of the. He wrote.
Before he died.
Huh?
He and Reich were close
associates studying under Freud in Vienna. They went to Denmark roughly the same time, and then Fenichel, by all accounts, became increasingly jealous of Reich and began to distance himself and spread rumors. He was also a very, very close friend of Annie Reich, Reich's first wife, who Reich was then involved in a fight with over their children. The documentation is there in private letters that are now available. Fenichel was actively involved in spreading rumors and telling students that they should not study with Reich and that they would be expelled from the psychoanalytic movement. Fenichel later came to the United States and became the foremost exponent of very classical Freudian treatment. His study, the techniques of psychoanalysis, is a standard text today. Largely incorporates most of the first part of character analysis, a very profound center of the book. But he died very young. He died in this country of a stroke.
So, I'll answer questions. I'm a little tired. Questions?
No questions. You answered everything.
Very, very stimulating.
Well, do you mind questions that go back to what we were talking about before?
No, but that's what the question would be about.
You told me years ago, of course now you'll say you never said it, but that's that Dr. Reich said that he thought that Russia should be bombed when the United States had the atomic bomb and Russia did not, and that so much so that he literally volunteered that he would fly that mission because he wanted to demonstrate that he wasn't just suggesting this off the cuff or that he wasn't sincere in it. And when you told me this, I was stupidly appalled by it, and I thought, and I said to you, how could he advocate such a thing? He'd be killing all these innocent people, blah blah blah. And you explained that his feeling was that it was them or us.
Yeah.
And I'm just afraid this horse isn't dead. It's not that I want to beat it after it's dead.
What's that?
I'm saying that I don't mean to beat a dead horse.
No.
In the issue of whether or what you do to defend yourself when you're threatened, when you can't get away from it, Dr. Reich believed in capital punishment big time in that circumstance.
I can't argue with that. I don't even want to argue. I mean, at that particular time, he really felt that particularly China, if they'd gotten the upper hand, they would have used it.
But I'm not bringing this up because I just want to fight about it or I want to make a point.
No,
I'm just trying to understand what the
I'm just telling you. That's all I could say.
Right.
Beyond that, I can't tell you. I mean, yeah.
I was very moved by your answer when you said that the answer ultimately is in the work itself. And that's what we must do. Because the way I have witnessed it is that the plague has the force of a natural phenomenon. We can respond to it in individual instances according to how we feel it. But we can't single-handedly stop it.
No.
But what we can do is concentrate very intensely and seriously on the work that we do.
Absolutely.
The work itself, in fact,
Right.
gives us a measure of certainty because of its reality.
Yeah, and it's not that easy, you know. Everybody, we all think that the truth is all powerful, but it's got to be a lot of truth. That's why Dr. Reich said maybe in 500 years it will have broken through.
There's Dr. Reich's favorite anecdote in the letter to Neil, and he writes, Neil later said it was his, that Neil made it up. I found it in the letter. He said, when the devil comes down, the devil comes down from the upper world to Satan, his domain, and says, Master, there's been a disaster on earth, a tragedy on earth. They've discovered the truth. And Satan looks up and says, don't worry about it, we'll send someone up there to organize it.
Did you want to say something?
Yes, because that sometimes when plague gains the upper hand, it can be easy to fall into a kind of pessimism or despair, very natural human reaction to such a condition. But on the other hand, there could be a time when things could happen suddenly.
I can't hear you.
Things could shift and change suddenly rather than.
Yeah.
So it might not
You get
be
mutations of the plague into the truth. Yeah.
I just, a thought that I had before when we were talking about the work that was being done at Rangeley, and some of the people that were working with, I couldn't see what he was able to see in the microscopes, and
Now this was in Norway.
wherever, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
wherever the work was being done, I just remembered that particular part of it. The subjectivity of what the people who are attempting to continue the work is very important, and a very important element that you really cannot put your finger on that comprehensively, what it is that some people can see and some people can't, that makes a person say, yes, this is it, or it isn't, or this is the slander, or adds to the slander. So the people who do see it and do carry on the work and are able to do the functional part of it should just continue to do that because it's too easy.
Right,
for the
well,
other part to get-
everybody's trying to do their best, but unfortunately, there aren't any Dr. Reichs around us at the present time. I'm sure there was somewhere along the line, there will be. It's there, it's all, the books are all there and everything else. God knows that they're in practically, I know, 5 or 6 major languages: French, German, Spanish,
Italian,
Finnish. Japan now has it.
Italian.
Italian, yeah.
You know, it's just interesting. We're talking about one man, and we're all have, I'm sure, a similar reaction. How he was attacked, hounded to death. And this whole thing about what do you call it? What do you want to call it?
Crucifixion.
Crucified. And in recent months and in the past year, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of people have been killed throughout the world in these ethnic or racial, battles in Africa and whatnot, Bosnia. And the people, like let's say in our country, the African Americans who are horrified at one of their own getting beaten by the police, you hardly hear a word out of them protecting against the awful slaughters in Africa.
But that's only a number. See, whether the number is 1 or 200,000,
It doesn't make any difference.
no,
It's the
it's
same
only
thing.
numbers. It doesn't mean anything. 20,000. What's
Right.
200,000
Yeah.
people?
But that's really
We had this
thought.
one
Yeah.
kid in Singapore. Got worldwide attention. They were ready to bomb Singapore.
Right.
That was one number. 200,000 people were killed in Rwanda,
Right,
and
right.
and of course you can blame a lot on CNN. We wouldn't know anything about this.
Well, right, but that's the strength, that's the power of the play.
Right.
That it just has this incredible force that, you're right, the numbers have no meaning.
Yeah.
Could be millions, it could be one.
Yeah, like with the Holocaust. A lot of the deniers of the Holocaust, not completely like some of them, will say it wasn't 6 million, it was only 250,000.
Right.
You know?
It's not so bad.
Well, what is it?
I'm skipping around a little bit, but I'd like to know a little bit more about the accumulator and a doorbuster and what the exact difference is.
Well, that's another.
So we're-
That's another. No.
We'll have to get that over back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions?
No. referring to Dr. Reich's distinguishing between Marxism and red fascism.
Yeah.
And he was a great admirer of Marxism. Is that right?
Well, his teachings, yeah.
Right.
His economics.
And
Well,
did he express that he felt that Marxism was employable and that